Hello, welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining us today. Today we'll be making Makrouna. I don't think I pronounced that quite correctly. Sorry, I've been practicing. But yeah, anyway, and a salad, tomato, cucumber, onion salad. Today's recipe comes from Tunisia, which is to the north, kind of west of Africa. It makes up part of the Mediterranean coast. And I was surprised to learn that it is the second largest consumer of pasta after Italy. And my brother wondered perhaps it was the influence Italy had on Tunisia. I thought, I don't know, maybe. So I looked it up. Couldn't really find a whole lot of information about that. I had assumed that maybe it was recent interaction between Italy and Tunisia. But actually, they have interactions going back to ancient times, back when you've probably heard of Carthage, Hannibal of Carthage, the Punic Wars. Well, Carthage was in present-day Tunisia. So Roman and Tunisia, Italy and Tunisia, they've had interactions with each other for centuries. And who's to say who influenced whom with the whole pasta thing? But anyway, let's get started. So for the Makrouna, we're going to need pasta, any pasta of choice, so long as it's 16 ounces. This is Trader Joe's gluten-free pasta. We like it because it doesn't go down the drain when you try to rinse it, as some gluten-free mixes will do. 5 to 6 cloves of garlic chopped. We're going to need 2 tablespoons of paprika, 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne, 2 to 3 bay leaves, 6 ounces of tomato paste. So, and then for the spice mix, the recipe notes that for the traditional spice mix, it's 1/2 teaspoon of caraway powder. I only have caraway seed, so I'm going to try and grind these up with a heavy coffee cup. Although, if you have a mortar and pestle, that would do even better. 1/2 teaspoon of fennel powder, which I don't have. 1/2 teaspoon of cumin and 1 tablespoon of coriander. But it does note that if you have none of those things, then just 2 tablespoons of coriander will do. 1 to 2 teaspoons of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. And then for the meat, it calls for 7 to 9 lamb chunks. Where I live, lamb can be kind of expensive, and I don't have lamb. I don't have beef either. What we do have is 1 pound of chicken breast that we're going to use instead, chopped up, of course. And then optionally, we can use 3 to 5 anaheim or jalapeno peppers. I'm just gonna go ahead and just use these dried up chili pods. I just put in 1. It's just for a little flavor. For the salad, the recipe calls for 1/2 of a large onion diced. I imagine a medium one really would work just as well. 6 Roma tomato. It says 1/4 inch diced. These are tomato, not Roma. They're right from my mom's garden. So I'm going to use that instead. Here, let me move so you can see better how many. Then it calls for 6 Persian or 1 1/2 English cucumbers. So these are actually lemon cucumbers. But I looked it up. Persian cucumbers are about the same size as this lemon cucumber. And they're all 3 of them. The point is that they're crispy. They're not really soft like what you usually see in the grocery store for a cucumber. So you'll want to leave those unpeeled because, again, the peels kind of help make it crispy, and cut up into 1/4 inch diced. 2 1/2 teaspoons of dried mint, 1 teaspoon of salt, and then it calls for 1/2 teaspoon of aleppo pepper or a few pinches of red pepper flakes. And then 1/4 cup extra virgin olive oil. So as I said earlier, I don't have caraway seed powder, just straight up seed. So I'm going to try breaking it up with a coffee mug. We'll see how that turns out. Since I don't have a mortar and pestle, I do have a spice grinder, but this is such a small amount it wouldn't work. Nothing. Okay, I'm getting there a little. I see it's starting to turn a little powdery. At this point, I'm starting to think maybe I should invest in a mortar and pestle. I've had a couple of different recipes call for it. Oh, that's looking a whole lot better. If you can see if I can get a close up. It's looking a lot better. And please excuse the ever-changing position my tripod's giving out. So I can't hold it in as many positions as I used to be able to. So now it's time to make the garlic paste, and this is another one where mortar and pestle would come in handy. But the instructions say if you don't have the mortar and pestle, use a forgot the fork. Use a fork and a wide bowl. So that's what we're going to use. And so now we'll put in the half teaspoon of our caraway powder, half a teaspoon of cumin, half a teaspoon of fennel powder. I don't have that, so I'm going to go ahead and just put in an extra half teaspoon of the ground coriander, and then 1 tablespoon of ground coriander. Okay, so now we're just going to start mashing until it turns into a paste. It's going to take a while, I am quite certain. I almost wish I had a little tiny mini potato masher. I feel like maybe that would work better. Use a food processor, except again, I think this is too small of an amount for a little food processor. Ooh, the spice grinder. So after mashing the garlic spice mixture for a while, I remembered that I have a spice grinder. Because like I said earlier, I didn't think it was enough for the food processor. So we're going to see if the spice grinder works. Pushing it down. Doesn't necessarily seem to be chopping up the garlic. Oh yeah, starting to get there. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Still a few garlic chunks. I had to, at one point, just kind of squish everything up right into one side. And that seemed to really help make sure all the little garlic chunks ground up. So now it's time to add everything to the pot. So we're going to start off with, of course, I always like to start it on high till it heats up, and you can turn it down later as you start cooking or continue cooking. Add your oil. So let's add the garlic paste. Oops. As you can see, I moved it over to the bowl just to make it easier to put in. The whole can of tomato paste. Add half a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to go ahead, I know I'm not finished. Turn it down completely to low. Stir things around a little bit. Half of a teaspoon of pepper. Quarter teaspoon of the cayenne pepper. You can do a quarter to a half a teaspoon. I'm just doing a quarter so it's not too hot for everyone. Interestingly, I found out that my mom, as I said, has a hard time handling pepper heat, but she really likes ginger heat. And I found that I love pepper heat, but I can't really handle ginger heat. I have a hard time with that. 2 tablespoons of paprika. My dad likes paprika, so I'm sure he'll like that addition. And stir it around some more. I'm going to move it to the back because it's starting to stick. And I don't want that. Low heat in the back. 2 to 3 bay leaves. And if it does stick, we can add a little water, but honestly, it's doing a lot better just moving it to the low heat in the back. Yeah, okay. I think I'm gonna have to add just a shade of water. And when we get to adding water to cover the meat, it's helpful to have hot water. So you can just get hot water right out of the tap, or if you've boiled water out of your teapot. Just a little. As my mom said, it does smell very good already. All the nice spices and herbs. Okay, so it's cooked for a couple of minutes. Now we sear the meat. If you're using something like beef or lamb that takes a long time to cook, then you would, of course, sear the meat. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm using chicken. I'm still gonna go ahead and sear it at this point and then remove it, because the chicken's not gonna take as long to cook as the as beef or lamb would. And I'll just remove it afterward while the spice runs down, because you're going to be adding water in a few minutes. Turn your heat up so it sears a little. Starting to sear just a little. So I'm going to go ahead and move that over and start searing some of the other pieces. I must say it's kind of difficult actually searing it in paste. I'm not used to doing that. So I changed my mind about searing the chicken slowly and then removing it, and I decided to just cook up all of the chicken at once in the sauce. Cover it all up nice with the seasoning. Okay, so whatever kind of meat you're using, just add enough water, hot water, to just cover the meat. I think I might add a little bit more. So if you're cooking something thick like lamb or meat, you would simmer this. I'm going to bring that back up to a boil, and then you simmer it for an hour. Chicken doesn't take nearly that long, so it really only takes like 20 minutes for chicken to cook, 15 to 20. So we'll check it in about 15 and see what it looks like. So while your chicken's cooking, we'll start the water for the pasta. Start it to boil. Add a little olive oil so that help prevent the noodles from sticking. So it's been not quite 10 minutes. The chicken is definitely fully cooked. So, but as you can see, it's still kind of watery, the sauce. So I'm just gonna pull out the chicken and let the sauce simmer for another, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes. I'm going to stir it again. I'm also going to go ahead and leave the lid off because, as you can see, it hasn't really reduced a whole lot, and we want it, a little more saucy. So now the water's hot for the pasta, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in, pour it in. Excuse me. Give it a stir. Cook it for 7 to 10 minutes. You can even go ahead and turn off the heat at this point. This is what my family usually does. But make sure you cover it and stir it another 2 or 3 times while it's cooking. Make sure it doesn't stick. So I would definitely suggest, the instructions didn't say either way, I would definitely suggest leaving the lid off right from the start. But we'll check it again in about 10 minutes. Probably been more like 5 minutes, and it looks much better now, much more like sauce. See if I can get it up closer for you to see. So I'm going to go ahead and re-add the chicken, and cover it up here for a few minutes while I finish the pasta and the salad. Okay, so now we're going to work on the salad. Add the tomatoes, onion, cucumber. Now we add the teaspoon of salt, mint. Whoops. Nope, that's fine. Just a couple of tiny shakes of the red pepper, and then a 1/4 cup of olive oil. I accidentally grabbed a 1/2 cup, so I'm just going to fill it halfway. and then stir it all together really well. And I forgot to mention earlier, but optionally you can serve this on romaine lettuce. But I think I'm just going to serve it as it is. Okay, so now it's time to try it out. It smells really good the whole time I was making it. And I realized later that I forgot to add that dry pepper, but I'm sure it'll still be okay. Probably got a little too much pasta to sauce ratio because I'm not really tasting it. Kind of tasting it. Despite the heat starting to come through a little. Definitely could have added that dry pasta or dry pepper. It's coming through. Probably would have been better with beef or lamb. Like I said, lamb's expensive and chicken is just what I happen to have. Let's go ahead and try the salad now. It's pretty good. I thought about it like, oh, this made me think of what I'm used to because my mom's grew up in Michigan. And so she would make a salads with the oil and vinegar. So reading the instructions on this, it kind of made me think of that. And I think vinegar would have been a nice addition. Ooh, I got the mint there. That's a really nice addition, the mint. So definitely, I would personally, for personal taste, add a little more heat in the sauce. That's about all I can say. Probably a little less pasta. But overall, it's pretty good. Not bad. I really like that salad though. So I will, as always, include the links to the recipes in the description. And if you make it, try it out. Let me know what you think. Please leave a comment. And until next time, I hope you have a good day or night.